I didn't really have the tools, like some of the tools that you're teaching in Knowledge for Men. I'm like, man, why didn't we learn this in school? Like, why didn't we learn how to have.
I never thought that this was going to be some sort of business or organization, or that I would be managing a team around this type of work. It was really just me on a journey.
You kind of got pulled into Knowledge for Men, and it was like just all of a sudden everybody kind of started banging on your door, like, hey, you know this stuff, like, share it.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I am here with Coach Jack. We've got an exciting episode here today. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, you just got back from Costa Rica. What the heck?
We had a great trip in Costa Rica. Yeah, and I think that you should be part. You should join next time. It was great. Yeah, a couple of days of surfing. It was great.
Awesome. Really glad you had some of that time and some good guys you're out there with.
Yeah, man. It was yeah, fantastic. There's no bad vibes down in Costa Rica. So getting back to work has been a challenge, but yeah, it was great.
In today's episode, you had brought up a topic. Go ahead and share that.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier about, we were just talking a little bit about my story, and how PGI, like how Project Grounded Man, how Knowledge for Men had really helped me in my life at a time when I very much needed it. And oh, yeah, I was thinking just about connecting with some of the listeners as well on, the idea of a man. And I mean, I can give my experience here where I feel that I had hit moments in my life where I had experienced some levels of success. When I experienced the success, it tended to kind of peter off, and I'd be back into a place where, where I wasn't fulfilled, where I wasn't happy, and then trying to climb back up that ladder again to experience that fulfillment and that aliveness of those times when, I guess fulfillment is the best word to use, when I really felt like I was fulfilled or on my purpose. Right. And I know that this, what you have created here it really helped me at a time that was dark. It was painful. It was dark. I didn't know where to go. And it really helped me to level up. And the idea of that is, I believe, now that I'm coaching with Knowledge for Men, I believe that one of the things that I've done very well is changing the old model, right? And building, basically identifying this new version, or identifying a version of yourself that you could really admire, and building that person. And I love your story too, because you've done that. And I think more than once.
Absolutely. What do you mean by the old model? What is this?
Yeah. So there was this moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I just really didn't like the person that I saw. Right. And a lot of that was, I think, from pursuing comforts. Like, I had actually reached some success in business. I was making good money. Uh, at the time, I had good relationships. There was this character that I had turned into that I really didn't like. This idea of changing yourself, right? There was another vision that I had of another guy who I could really admire, who I really wanted to be, but I was far from it. And yeah, so to answer your question of the old model was it was just an old way of operating, and I didn't really have the tools, like some of the tools that you're teaching in Knowledge for Men. I'm like, man, why didn't we learn this in school? Like, why didn't we learn how to have better relationships, how to communicate with family members, how to communicate with intimate partners, right? Like the chaos and the harm that I had done by not being true to, I guess, being true to myself. And I know that's a roundabout way of explaining it. But yeah, the old model, there's so much to it. I mean, we could talk for the next hour about all the different things in the old model, but it was mostly just how I was showing up for myself and to the world.
What could be interesting to consider here is how the old model of Jack, or even myself, or the listener, may have been a model that you once admired. in a sense that if I'll speak for myself, if I think about my old model, a traditional model of success for a man in going to college and getting a good job and getting your 401k set up, getting your benefits all set up. And then it's like, okay, all you have to do now is just show up to work and work hard and you'll get promoted, and you're following this model and you're climbing up this ladder, and you have your own place and you have your own car, you might be dating, you might be in a serious relationship. You feel like this is a level of manhood, of control over your life that is powerful, although you feel like you don't have control, and you also feel like you don't have your power in a sense that you didn't create the model. You are following a societal model that may not be aligned with your values or your ideal vision. But at one point, like when I was younger, right? Like when you're in college working hard, it's like that's sort of the vision. That was the model. That sort of was what you were working hard towards. And I think for some, that can last for decades before typically there's a crisis of some sort that will wake a man up, usually around relationships. Usually it's around women or a breakup or being cheated on or something that you did not see coming occurs, which wakes the man up, and then he reevaluates the model in which he is living, and then realizes, I do not like this model. I do not like this body. I do not like this environment. Like, I'm no longer aligned with this. I don't know for how long I've been out of alignment, but this is not working.
Yeah, totally. So there's definitely like some grace to give because at the time maybe you were on your purpose or you were moving forward with where you were supposed to be, but yes, somehow you took the wrong path. Is it the wrong path? Like I love the story of Hercules when he is met with two, like the Y in the road. Do you know this story? Basically, he can pick. There's a woman standing there who's offering him anything and everything he wants in life. You'll want for nothing. Follow me. All the comforts will be provided, right? And on the other path, there's this haggard old woman who is basically saying, well, if you come down my path, there's nothing but pain. There's nothing but pain and hardship down here. Well, we all know that Hercules chose, we know the path that Hercules chose, and he's the hero, right?
Which path did he choose?
He chose the path of hardship.
And why? What is the lesson there? He chose the path of hardship versus the path of what, pleasure and
Basically, yeah, yeah. And I think the story, I hope I'm not butchering the story here, but I think the idea of the story is that that was his purpose. He knew that he was meant to be, to overcome obstacles and become a legend, a hero, right? And yeah, so those were the first two paths that he was met. So the story goes, right? So for you, yeah, and I do think, I mean, we're talking about just guys in general here. I think that maybe there's a few times in all of our lives where this occurs, right? Like for you, when was that moment? I know a little bit about your story that you were with Target before.
so a major retailer, I was managing the store, but that was one version of it. I feel like there's many different levels of the journey. It's been since I first started being active of personal development and becoming a stronger grounded man would have been in 2000 like 2012. And so that was one version of it, and it would have been a breakup that would wake me up, and that would open up my eyes to like, what am I doing? Like, is this really the path that I want? I'm going to sit here and climb up and become this like district manager of this retail store and make like six figures and just sort of show up and just keep working, and hopefully one day like have the region and like, and then, bounce around to other companies. And like that was sort of the path that I was on. And it was, I was so out of alignment with what I was doing, but it's like, just I was in debt, college debt, and I wanted a good job. I wanted the benefits. It was served in front of me, sign on bonus. It's like, okay. And there I was. But the wake up moment for me was the breakup. because you're in so much pain. I was in so much pain. Typically, that's what happens when it's like a shock and awe breakup that you didn't see coming, and you wake up and you start to question fear. You question your direction, but then you question fear because you're already in so much pain that fear is less scary because you're already in. It's like if you're already sort of drowning at 6 feet, going down into 10 feet, it makes no difference. You're already drowning. Like the pain is the same. So I think it gives you this opportunity, and for me, it gave me the opportunity to say, hey, what am I doing? I quit and I went on a journey to discover what it is that I want out of my life and who do I need to become and how do I grow and how do I develop better relationship skills and social skills and build an amazing social group around me that is also in alignment with my values and vision. How do I date a high quality, what is a high quality woman, and how do you date a high quality woman in this extremely um, ever changing social media infused world? And how do you battle the vices that are basically blocking me and stunting my growth? Like all these different journeys would open up, and I tackled them with enthusiasm because I viewed them as a journey and was excited to grow and overcome the challenges and enjoy the discomforts associated with each journey.
Yeah, totally. Because, but at the time, like you have a very positive growth mindset around this right now. But at the time, I would challenge that it probably wasn't like, all right, we're going to go on a journey. You're like, shit, I just got broken up with, or, the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, there was a turning point where I did just start viewing this as a journey, and that allowed for acquiring skills because each skill is a journey, and it's like, oh, you just go on this journey and you just learn these things and overcome these challenges. You get a mentor, da 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 da, and then you end up having the result. And then, cool, that journey is like ongoing, and I've accomplished a lot. On to the next.
Yeah, cool, man. And I keep hearing the call to action with you. Like, it would be really cool to for you to share. But you were sharing when we were last in person in San Diego. You were sharing just about your story with Knowledge for Men, even, right? It's like you went on this journey to go and figure this stuff out for yourself, invested a ton of money and time into it. It sounds like you went all in on this journey of like, hey, there's got to be something more out there, right? Even just the question that you asked of like, what are my values? Like that could be a difficult question on its own, never mind all these other things, right? So you went on this journey to, you identified, hey, this isn't for me, something's missing. It's almost like at a soul level, right? Like something's missing here.
Just
I'm
what am I doing? What am I doing? And why am I waking up and getting in this car and just driving to work and then staying there like I'm in prison to then I'm released from this prison at a certain hour when I'm allowed to leave and go home, and then I work out and then just go to bed, and then I just play video games. I'm starting to drink, and it's like, what is this? What is this social construct? How did I find myself in this position? And I found so much freedom in breaking social construct and like breaking reality of like, okay, this is just what your reality is, and then breaking it like the matrix, and then like creating something that is in alignment to your values. And that sounds so simple to just say. You're like, hey, create some, break reality, do something that's in alignment to your values, go do it, go on a journey, make that happen. But that is extremely challenging to actually do consistently in a world that is following a social mold.
totally, yes. Yeah. And then I guess the positive side of that, and this is just what's coming up for me is, this I mentioned the call to action with the hero's journey. There's a call to action. Like when you and I were talking about your story, back in San Diego, and it was so interesting to hear how you just got thrown into this whole world of men's coaching and men's health. It's like, man, you didn't even really ask for this, right? Like it was all this knowledge that you had acquired. You went on the journey, you pursued it. I would challenged that it was probably a very scary, dark, lonely path at times as well.
100%
Fig-
at times.
yeah, figuring all this stuff out. And the thing that really impressed me, or inspired me, I should say, about your story was you were just like, man, I just wanted to write a book or two and, continue to live my life. And then boom, all of a sudden, all these men started showing up like, Andrew, hey, can you help us with our relationships? Can you put this stuff together? And it's interesting that I think it should be highlighted here as the positive, right? We go down, we're scared to pursue the journey, right? The journey is scary because we've never been there before, it's new, right? But then you come out of it the other side and all of a sudden there's this whole new world, right? And now look at the value that has been, uh, I mean, I can share lots of my experience of just how knowledge for men and all of your teachings have really, really helped me. And I mean, I'll just share that when I was at that place where I was like, same spot, relationship just ended. I caught myself. I just remember the moment where I looked at myself in the mirror. I had my shirt off, and I was like, I just looking at myself like, who the hell is that guy? I I didn't I didn't come to this experience, to this life to be that, to be this, right? And I just remember, my intuition was kind of screaming at me that, Jack, there's somebody else, like, don't reinvent the wheel, right? I'm a business owner. I'm like, man, somebody else has done this. And so sure enough, that's how I found Knowledge for Men. Was I just started researching, hey, who's done all this stuff? And then, a few different people came up. But the what you were talking about was very much in a line. I just felt very much called to what basically Knowledge for Men was talking about. But I just think, yeah, that's the other positive side. So you've kind of gone from like the darkness to the journey. You're on the journey, you're working, you're figuring it all out, and then you kind of pop out the other side and you're in this whole new world. And it was incredible hearing your story about how you kind of got pulled into Knowledge for Men, and it was like just all of a sudden everybody kind of started banging on your door like, hey, this stuff, like, share it.
Yeah, I never thought that this was going to be some sort of business or organization, or that I would be managing a team around this type of work. I It was really just me on a journey trying to uncover these lessons and get results in my life that would then improve my life, that where I could live in alignment to my values and vision. And the questions I was asking are questions that um I feel that at the age I was at, which was like 25 ish at the time, was aren't questions that that age group is typically asking, especially at that time before social media and YouTube and stuff had really brought forth a lot of free access to personal development. But um, I noticed that a lot of the clients are much older. In fact, when I was starting to do events and was starting to gain traction, I was consistently the youngest person in the room, and at the retreats and seminars I was throwing, or when I was doing like virtual coaching calls, like I was consistently the youngest person. And I think I was asking these questions. I was breaking reality and trying to create my life versus accepting what life is giving me and just sort of rolling with the comfort. Like, I'll grow so as long as it's within a range of comfort that I am able to handle, is I feel what a lot of guys are doing. And then once they're in their 30s and 40s is typically when these conversations, the pain has reached its threshold, is when guys in his 30s and 40s, where he's been living in within a social construct or within the old model for so long that it is now reaching its limit. In fact, when I started doing advertising, I noticed the age groups, and it was like the younger age groups would not convert, even though this is so important for the young, like from like 18 to 24, it did not convert. These guys aren't, they're not clicking. It's the highest cost per click. It's the highest acquisition cost. The 25 to 30 is when it starts. And then the 30 to 40 is really when the guy is in 30 to 40, and then 40 to like 48 is when the guy is really feeling the litmus and the threshold of like, look, I've had it. Like something's not working. They're experiencing high levels of pain as a result of living out of alignment.
Mhm. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but like for your male role models growing up, right? We've talked about your dad. In my experience, the male role models that I had, it was always like a Jack, you go to work, you provide for your family, you shut your mouth, and then you go and do it all over again. And that was kind of the model that I grew up with. And I just always remember, thinking when I did think outside the box, I remember even like a teacher in high school saying, Jack, you can't do that. It just devastated me. And for so long, society is constantly telling you you can't do this. I think things are shifting now. Maybe it's because I'm, more attuned to this world and this life. Maybe
I think
not.
so. I
I
think
think
so.
things they're shifting, or it's
No,
just
I
not.
think that you're fully I think you're awake to like what your the direction of your life is. I also think you've surrounded yourself with men who are also in that world, and your environment plays such a crucial role in the conversations you're having with yourself and with others.
Yeah, yeah. Environment is so important. You actually taught me that. Yeah, environment is so important, and I'm a big fan of vision and boundaries. Right. So boundaries. That's like, who am I surrounding myself with? And I hear a lot of people talking about this, but it yeah, going from a past of like where I would just I was a people pleaser. I would just appease everyone, try and make sure everyone was felt pleasant, and anyway, just trying to please everyone. Now going to like, hey, I say no real quick. If you're not a fit for my life, it's a no. Respectfully, it's a no. Like I don't have a lot of time in a day, but the people that are in my life now are incredible.
Yeah, that's the result. You have a strong filter. The end result of what comes out is much higher, much more in alignment. Not that anyone of these other people are just like bad people, but that this is just in alignment. Like this flows. Strong filters, boundaries creates a better product. You can think of it like a water filter.
Totally. Yeah. And I don't even put myself into a situation. If like, I'll give an example. I went to physio this morning. I stopped at the local McDonald's. I was going to get coffee, and I pulled up to the coffee. I'm in Vancouver. The homeless population here it's a pretty serious situation. And there was like ambulances coming up, and there was some overdosing happening like in the McDonald's. And I walked up to the door, and I was going to go in. It was kind of like was being taken care of off to the side, and I was like, you know what, this energy is just not really what I was hoping to wake up to this morning. So
That's wild when people act normal. I was in San Francisco and LA has this too. But when I was in San Francisco, it's weird when people are just so used to like chaos that they're just walking casually around it. Like they're so it's like just like a tree. It's like just a part of the city to see this activity. But when you're someone new and you come in and you're like, what? There's a guy do I don't know. It looks like heroin or something. This guy has a needle in his arm and he's passed out. I think he's dead. And people are walking past him and just on the phone casually chatting, like, oh, what are you doing later? Like, oh my gosh, this is normal out here. And that could be a part of just like living within a model that like it become even though there's chaos happening, you're so used to just things not working that it is just a part of your life. Like if we're looking at your life now, not like homeless people, but how your environment and things that are happening around you so frequently, you just you allow it and you don't realize that this is actually a brewing crises about to unfold in your life if nothing changes. And nature has its way of eventually erupting,
totally.
whether that's your relationships like neglected, whether that's your work neglected. You're like, oh, I'm just skipping, like I'm just not on top of my accounting, like I just don't look at my books, or like you're not leading, you're not doing things, and or you're late on taxes, and like these things just eventually this will unfold on you. Or your relationships, like eventually you just like start seeing she's posting crazy stuff on social media and she's talking to other guys behind your back. Your health, like health crises, like we're all just a doctor's visit away from some very unfortunate news.
Yeah. Yeah. And you nailed it there, man. Like even just with relationships, like if you're talking about old model, the old model for me would have just been, I would either show up as the tyrant which wasn't often, but when I showed up as a tyrant, it would be, quite hurtful to my relationships. But most of the time, I would show up as the people pleaser, right? I would just appease. And if I was in a relationship that I knew needed to end, and I think a lot of guys get caught in this, I would just push it off, right? Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to push it off. I'm just going to let things happen on their own. Never did anything good come from that. Right?
You milk it and you're like, it's you're having sex, like it's you have there's a comfort, there's a routine comfort of the relationship that is filling a hole for you. For me, in many cases in the past, it was like, I know this isn't gonna work, like I know I'm not gonna drop on a knee and propose to this girl, but like we have a good routine where things it, we're in comfort and we're masking it with vices, and we just have a flow and we're having sex, and that's basically what I have. Is I have a partner whom we do vices with, where we are having sex and where we do connect at times, but ultimately we are lacking deep intimacy and connection, and our values are not completely aligned for the future. This is likely to blow up in your face, and having the putting that off is a significant uh eruption that will occur, that will really like take a toll on, like it'll like be like a volcano eruption just kind of flowing through every aspect of your life, because it'll take a toll on every aspect, your health, your career. um yeah, so just the comfort of sex, I think, has led many men into relationships that inevitably cause them significant pain and setback and setback. It's like the wrong relationship. I was thinking about it the other day because like I had made some really good investments, and I, and they had done very well, bigger than I like more than anything I had ever done at the time. And I was like, wow, like this is so crazy. I thought I was like the next Warren Buffett for a period. I'm just kidding. I was like, I really like truly like 30x this investment, and a breakup occurs, and then I'm just in so much pain. Like the pain of the breakup just sort of overflowed into my career, and like just my awareness, my focus in work, that I just completely dropped the ball and just made really bad decisions and basically lost everything. And it's like, had I just been more aware of the status of the relationship and had the forefront to resolve it ahead of time, I think I don't feel that I would have lost the significant investment. I think it would have continued to grow. And I think it's just a sign of how these things are connected.
Yeah, man. Because the two words that are coming to mind. We're talking about the old model is consumption, comfort. Comfort was a big one, right? And that was kind of the start to my big downfall, was pursuing comfort. I had a beautiful home. I was just building a custom home in a town. I was in a small town on Vancouver Island, just off the coast of British Columbia. And I was building this beautiful home. I had reached some success. I was filling this home with like couches, TVs, all the comforts. And man, I thought I had made it. I was like, same as you. I was like, this is what everybody's been telling me to work so hard for.
Were you like on the Amazon or like these other retail stores, like looking up, oh, should I get this lamp or that
Yeah.
lamp or this dining? What do you guys think? Like, have you seen Fight Club? Have you seen the
Yes.
movie? Do you remember that scene where he's literally he works all day and then he's on his couch and he's like looking through magazines about like what furniture to buy, and like this is like, this is my life. Like, um
Totally, right? And I think yeah. So that was kind of actually, when you're talking about Amazon, it was pillows. I was looking at throw pillows. And that's
oh
when I
man.
knew. I was like, what am I doing with
It,
myself here? Um
I
but
mean, there's nothing wrong with getting yourself a good pillow, but yeah, like this is how you're spending your, or this is what we're calling peak success. Like, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I had a nice vehicle, had this place that I was building. It was literally my dream home. And then I ended up getting into a relationship at the time that had no business getting into. But my mindset was, at that time, well, I have everything else, so I need to make this relationship work. And
Mhm.
like the pressure I put on this girl as well probably was, it wasn't fair to her either. Was basically like, hey, we're gonna date, and then like we're gonna talk about like future. We're just gonna create a family, right? And I, yeah, and my mindset at the time was like, I need to have more. I think, my ego kind of took over, and I had reached some success. I was making some money. I was living in this, beautiful home. And yeah,
Did it just feel like family was the next step where you're like, okay, I'm sitting here looking at pillows, like what's next? Like it seems like you're building like a foundation for family in a sense. You're like, okay, career as well. Like it's like, is this next? Like was was were you more into the idea of a family than you were into the relationship? Like, is this the right partner? Like, are we good together? Values, vision?
yeah, I know what you're asking. It was definitely me just following what society expected of me. Because I've looked back now and I very much want to have children, but at this very moment, I can't see children in my life at this very moment, right? Like when I started asking myself the real questions, actually, after I joined Knowledge for Men, then I identified like actually children really isn't in my future right now.
Is this are you talking about today in 2024, or are you talking at this
This is back
time
at this
in
time.
Vancouver Island? Okay, Vancouver
Yeah.
Island. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of the pressure was put on by my family. My sister was having kids at the time. Everybody was getting married. There's always a joke going around. I would joke with my friends, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, right? I've been to so many weddings. And so I just, yeah, at the time it felt like it was the right thing to do. But I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I had surrounded myself with better people who would have challenged my mindset around that at the time, right? So I ended up getting into a relationship, um, and it just again ended horribly. I actually, same thing. I delayed. I actually tried to end things, just knowing like something's not right here, and of course, it ended in it erupted like a volcano in complete chaos and threw my life in disarray. Now, at this point, I'm so thankful for this woman that she gave me the gift of that experience. At the time, though, there was a lot of pain, and it was a dark place. And then, looking in the mirror, I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am now. I was drinking probably like 4 or 5 times a week. Cigarettes as well. Like I was smoking consistently.
Was that a new habit, the smoking? Were you taking on a new habit?
That was something that I'd casually done kind of through my 20s. But I was definitely, it was more of a social thing. And yeah, now it had turned into like, I feel bad and I don't want to feel this way anymore. Enter in, tobacco, alcohol, um, you know, and yeah, another vice of mine was seeking validation through others. That was almost like a vice for me. But alcohol and tobacco, I think a lot of people can relate to those vices. I think porn is a big. Oh, sorry.
Porn is a huge one. Yeah, that's a whole seeking validation is a vice. I think what people would say, wait, hold on. What do you mean by that? Seeking validation is a vice. A vice is being something that stunts your growth or holds you back from achieving what you want.
Yeah. So the seeking of validation, I wasn't happy until somebody else liked me. Like my happiness and fulfillment or my groundedness was based on somebody else's perception of me.
Hmm. Okay. And so what would that lead to?
That that would just lead to me eventually burning out. I went actually through like a pretty chaotic burnout, and I was running I was running my business at the time. There was a lot going on. And I went through this burnout, and it was because I was constantly trying to seek everyone's approval instead of actually showing up, being a grounded leader, right? Making some difficult choices for the greater good of the team or whatever was going on in my life. Maybe saying no. I mean, we've had this conversation too, the power of saying no and setting some boundaries. I was more concerned with my staff liking me. I was more concerned with trying to make this girl like me in this relationship that was really should never have gone as far as it did. Trying to make just other people in my community who I, just trying to make everyone like me. And so I would go completely outside of, I call it my agency, right? Some people don't like this word, but I would call it my agency. Like there's the, there's a healthy amount of, uh, a healthy agency I would consider is Andrew wanting to do something nice for somebody. You do it, you feel good about it. all right, you move on, right? Being in outside of your agency is kind of like I'm doing everything for everybody else, right? And so I did that for so long, never really giving anything to myself, which led to like a massive burnout. My health was on the, I wasn't cooking properly, eating out all the time, constantly running around doing projects. Just, I was that guy you could phone me and I would help you move. I would build your back deck for you. Like I would do everything, right? Which probably seemed great to everybody around me, but I would show up. I remember I was in a relationship with just an incredible woman for 3 years prior to this. And, I've had to look back and really face how I showed up for her because I was always so burnt out and I was always doing for everybody else. I never gave that woman my presence. So we lived together for 3 years. And I have so much regret from how I showed up in that situation. Um, yeah, I wish I showed up. If I showed up for myself better, I could have been a better partner for her.
100%. There's an element of what you shared, like, "I'll help you build a deck," or, like, "I'll do the" there's an element there that is good. Like, this isn't, like, bad things to do if these are valuable people in your life. I can see though how this can go too far, and you can spread yourself too thin where it's like my cup is like empty and I'm just giving, giving and giving and giving. And that burnout I think a lot of guys can relate with. How how would you balance that today?
So what I would do, how that kind of create started was I would show up, and for example, my sister wanted an addition on her house, so I showed up. Me and her husband, her kids, husband, like we're all there. We ordered pizza. We might even have a few cocktails. We build this deck. It was really fun. I would show up, and it was like, all right, we're going to build this deck, and we're going to make a weekend out of it and have a really good time. Compared to when I started to burn out, it was, oh, I got to go and like build this stupid deck, and I would just show up frustrated and angry and bitter. And so then when I would show up, I would say yes to these people because they enjoyed. I look back now and, these people just enjoyed me. They valued having me there. They valued my skills. I think they more than anything just valued my time and energy. But I would show up in a way that would just take, right? Like I would take away from the positive energy because I was in such a negative place. Where now I've identified, if yeah, I want to go do let's build the deck. My sister and I, for example, I'm very close to my sister. We're doing a Mother's Day bike trip. We're going for 2 days. We're gonna camp, bike for a full day, camp, and then bike the next day. She asked me to do this, and I was like, I really want to do this with you. But she's asked me to do other things, and I'm like, look, I love you. Like, no, I love you to bits, but I don't have the energy. I can't fit that in my calendar. And we kind of talked about this on the last podcast, actually, with, I think we were talking about with your dad and the pool, right? And so what would happen, uh, yeah, for me, I really had to start setting boundaries. And so just getting back to, on a lot of the calls, I share that I'm a big fan of vision, like setting a vision and then dialing in your boundaries. And the boundaries change for me. Like sometimes I think of it as kind of like a roadway. And sometimes every morning I try and spend some time with myself and evaluate what my day looks like. And from there, I can see, like, do I have a really busy day? If I have a lot of things to do, I'm probably going to have to say no to some things. But if not, then I can, balance some connection in there as well. And maybe I can go out for that dinner with friends or whatever that looks like. So, man, it's a balancing act, definitely. Yeah.
I see that your energy, your sociability, your humor and friendliness are assets. These are positive things. And where I see how that may go wrong is that a lot of people think of you. And well, that's not necessarily wrong yet, but a lot of people think of you and they want to invite you and include you into things. And when you're getting hit by so many different requests or invitations or just like opportunities, and you say yes to all of these people, then because you don't want them to not like you, you don't want them to not approve of you, then I can see how this spreading too thin, or you're not showing up in your best state, or you're coming back home. You give your energy to these people, you come back home and you're not able to show up to the people in your own household, in your own home, or in your own relationship. Like the almost the dark side of being like having a good social life, like too much opportunity where like the weekend's coming and you're just getting texts from people and it's like, hey, let's do this, da da da. This, oh, can you help me with this? And you're just like, yes, 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 yes. And then you go out and do it. You come back and you're just exhausted. You didn't get to relax. You didn't get to recover. And here you are starting your week empty.
And it's how we show up. Like, this is big for, I don't think that there's any guy out there who hasn't experienced this challenge. And you've interviewed a lot of women, Andrew. Women want, the women in our lives who love us, they want us. They want us fully, right? They want our attention. They want to spend time with us because they love us, right? So, it was actually a conversation that we had on the Thursday call just before joining you. Was a lot of guys we're talking about this idea of like, oh man, there's always this push of like, I want more of you. Can I come over? We're talking about guys and how their partners are showing up, or perhaps women that they're dating, and we had to identify like the worst that the reason that they're giving us such a hard time is because they love us and they want our attention. Like, that's but then it's frustrating because all of us, it's important, I think, for a man to be on his purpose and be on his mission and be focused on the things that are important to him. So the challenge was, well, how do we communicate this with our partners so that we can continue to focus in on the things that are important to us as a man for ourselves, but also show up fully present for our partners, right? And I can just think of so many situations where I showed up where my cup was not, my cup was empty, and I would show up home to my partner and I'd just take it out on her.
I think in that moment, it's in that moment, if she doesn't know what's going on in your world, like there's a lack of communication, and we maybe don't want to appear weak, or we want to appear like we have it all taken care of as a strong man, and so we don't communicate. So then we begrudgingly try to show up, but we're empty. Then we're highly irritable. We're not in a positive, like alive state. We're really not even capable of like taking on her stuff now. And you're just like super avoidant, is how I would show up. Is just I would be sort of depleted from the world. I would come home and I wouldn't communicate the inner world that I was going through, and was trying to show up for her, but unable to, and not communicating looks like avoidant, and it looks like you're just not excited to spend time with her. And that lack of connection, the lack of emotional connection, is 100% the path to the destruction of this relationship. Is removing emotional connection, even if you have like not just intimacy, but like even parenting. Like you remove emotional connection from the parent child, like you have a dysfunctional child, and relationship with the parent. So how can, like, if we look at that situation, which I can relate to very well, what I have found today is sharing my inner world with her opens up the doors for connection, even though it may not be the perfect thing to say that's going to romance her and create all this level of passion in the evening. uh, Sharing my inner world has been always a challenge. It's something I'm way more aware of today, but just sharing the inner world so she can experience what I'm going through, but doing it underneath the umbrella that, like, I can figure this out. This is what I'm going through right now. I can figure this out though, versus venting and basically giving it to her and saying, please solve this for me. I'm incapable and I don't know what I'm doing. I think there's a difference in sharing the inner world. So I think that umbrella is really important, because it should be true that you could figure this out. I think that is true for any situation. And that is an important part where a guy can go too into vulnerability, because we do, I do value vulnerability, but I feel that too much without leadership can then come across as weakness if done consistently, and now you're doing it in a way that sort of pushes her away.
Yeah. I mean, my rule of thumb on that, this is a great share, man. My rule of thumb on that is like the next morning, wake up and get back on your purpose. So I'm going to cry on your shoulder tonight. You know, I might take the whole night to cry on your shoulder and I'm going to be sobbing. But,
And this is literal, or this is it is
I
completely
mean,
fine.
doing all this work, I'm fine. I cry more now than I ever have, right?
It with your partner?
Uh, no. That's something that would not happen often, right? But I would feel, with the right person, if you're with somebody for an extended period of time, there's going to be moments where you're like, holy shit, right?
I think there are times when it can actually be beneficial. If it's a consistent theme, I think that there's something going on there. But yeah, I wouldn't be, I'm not against crying with your partner. But I think if one is crying on a weekly basis with their partner, I think we have, you need another outlet. You need a therapist, like you need a place where you can do that. There's nothing wrong with crying as a man, just for the record.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and then my rule of thumb is like the next day, get back at it. And
Get back
exactly what
at
you
it.
said. Yeah. Get back
Yeah.
at it. She's looking to you for guidance, support, leadership. And it's important for us to remember that. But you just had a great share there, man, because, you showing up and being vulnerable with your partner. Like we talk a lot about this on in some of the calls is as men, we feel like we have to hide and be dishonest so that we don't hurt our partner's feelings. And that again, we're talking about the old model. That was old model for me. I'm just going to hide and I'm going to be dishonest. And I didn't realize that what I was doing is I was stepping into my man cave. I was pulling away from her. And she very much would feel then that the safety was missing when all I was trying to do is I was just trying to protect her. Right. And man, I was raised by women. I have a lot of strong women in my organization. Now, women are strong. Women are incredibly powerful beings. Like, so I really like the idea of your share there of being vulnerable. I think that we have this idea that we have to coddle the feminine, and I would argue that they are extremely capable of hearing the truth.
You said I go into the man cave. What is this man cave? I'm aware of what it is, but for the audience,
Yeah, the man cave is basically me just climbing up. I'm just going to go into silence until I figure out this problem, which can be very damaging. Because, like, for me, I would go into the man cave for extended periods, not even knowing that I was doing that. I could pull away for weeks or months. Um, and in my mind, I just wanted to solve the problem. Us guys being like the logical thinkers. I want to solve this problem. But then what would happen? I'll give an example because this is probably a better example. In my organization, I used to do this with clients. Clients, I work in the legal industry. And I would do this with clients. They would ask me a question. And if I didn't know, I would go and figure it out. The problem is sometimes it would take me weeks to figure it out. And then by the time I got back to the client, their court date was already missed. And there was no point in, they've missed out. And now I've just ruined my reputation. So now I'm a lot more open with communicating that what you just said, I don't know. I actually don't have the answer to this, but let's figure this out. Right.
yeah, let's figure this out. Yeah, but that man cave, I think it looks different for men, where that man cave can be what we think of, where you just put a headset on and play video games, or like you maybe smoke weed and just sort of like isolate yourself, or a man cave could even be like you are. It could be different social groups where you just go here and like this is where you're hiding out. It could even be like the gym. Not that going to the gym is bad, but that like you're just hiding in the gym because you don't want to face your partner, or like you just go train jujitsu, which is amazing. I highly recommend. But like you're just consistently in this place where you get to be away from your partner.
Or emotional.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or it can be that you aren't leaving physically and that you emotionally just sort of shut down and don't let her into that. It really is just a few sentences that I'm talking about here when it comes to sharing your inner world so that she can connect to that and then go solve the problem but it can be longer. It can be a full night of talking. It For many cases, sharing your inner world can just be a few sentences so she can say, "Ah, it's not me. It's this thing that is going on in his life that is occupying him, and this means a lot to him, and he needs to solve this in order to feel strong and powerful and like a man and like a good provider and whatever that is." But I think it's that she feels that it's her and that she's not enough, because if she was enough, she might think, like, if I was enough, then he would be with me and he would talk to me.
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't know what is going on in his world, and there's a wall and there's an avoidant. And if she's an anxious attachment style and you're the avoidant, which I am, but the awareness of it, you could always work towards secure. It is not permanent for those who are like, oh my God, I'm that too. It can be resolved, but then you're creating it's like before a volcano erupts, there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of things that are happening before it erupts, and that's sort of what's happening when you begin this avoidant, uh when you're going into the man cave for too long and too consistent, and she thinks that you're hiding from her.
Yeah, because one example here is recently I had to spend a lot of time at work. I was dating somebody recently. I had to spend a lot of time at work, and she, she was, uh, I could tell that she was starting to kind of pull away. Like what, she wasn't really accepting my, hey, I'm at work right now anymore. Right. And she was asking, like, hey, I would like you to communicate more. Like, I'd like to hear from you more. And so I just did that. I got vulnerable and I shared with her. I was like, look, business has been like really tough the past couple, like, I've got this house on the market right now. Like things were financially tight for me during this period. I had a lot of irons in the fire and I just kind of spewed it all out. And then at the same time, I was like, I'm having a really challenging time with a relationship with a family member. I just kind of told her all these things. And I remember just going silent. This was on the phone. I remember going silent on the phone, just kind of being like, waiting for that response of like, I don't want to hear your problems. That's what I was expecting to get back. And it was just so great. There was just like this silent moment. And she just said, I had no idea. I had no idea you were going through all of that. Thank you. Like, thank you for telling me. I didn't know.
And then it's like all the Tetris pieces connect, and she can go, "That's why he did that. That's why he was showing up this way. That's what he was doing here." And it's like, bling, like when the Tetris connects, it goes, it makes this noise. It's like in her head, it sort of connects, and it makes this aha where it's like, "Oh, okay." And then that gives her the opportunity, as a woman who, if you're committed to, like, loves you, it gives her the opportunity to support you and to understand your world, but it gives her the opportunity to hit the ping pong back of intimacy and connect with what's going on in your world. And that's sort of the strength of a woman as well, is she's not going to go into the office with you and solve your problems, but giving you that emotional strength and courage and emotional bravery to like help you step into your power, is very powerful. And that's what I tell my current girlfriend is like, I'm just like, she's like, how can I help? How can I help? And I'm like, honestly, just emotional support is all I know what I need to do. It's just that it's going to take time every day. I need to do these things. I'm going to show up to it. I'm going to tackle it. I am capable is like a key word there. Is like, I am capable of doing this. I've gone through things like this in the past and overcome them. This is where I'm at. And honestly, like the best thing you can do is just emotional support, and physical intimacy, as well. And emotional support and physical intimacy is going to help a guy tremendously when he's going through a difficult situation. Emotional support, physical intimacy, it's like that's going to really give you this. It helps you show up to the day. You have this level of feminine energy from your partner that is supporting you, and you don't feel like you're on an island. She's not neglecting you. That's a powerful. And then when you overcome it, it's like I think together you guys just grow so much stronger because you overcame something tough. She showed up in ways, and it sort of teaches her how she can show up in the future and bring you guys closer and closer. It's like a little snowball that's just continuing to grow and grow and grow as you encounter life's adversities, versus like life's adversities like taking you guys out because you're like, oh shit, a new challenge. I'm going to go into the man cave and ignore you until this is solved. And then when I come back out, we're all super disconnected. But hey, I solved this problem. But she doesn't give a fuck if you solve the problem because now you guys are all disconnected. And she's like looking around like at other dudes.
Man, women are so incredible. We're so I'm sure we're so lucky to have women. What they provide to us and how they challenge us is so incredible, right? Yeah. I'm just even thinking about this woman that I shared that story about. Like, she's just, yeah, such an incredible, incredible person.
Was there something she would say or like bring out or like what made her so incredible?
Just like I wouldn't be able to name one thing, but just her presence and her energy. Um, yeah, very powerful, like feminine, nurturing, loving, strong energy. It just, yeah, it's hard. It would be hard for me to put into words specifically what that would look like, but you can just feel that, right? You can feel this. It's like, I mean, maybe referring to like a power couple. They talk about power couples. Well, why are these power couples? Because they're two amazing people lifting each other up, right? Um, yeah. So, what you're saying is you're in this struggle right now. You're communicating this with her, and it's empowering her to be safe. You're the one who taught me, man. Everybody in this world looking for safety, right?
Right, right. At the root, I think that is true across every species.
I agree. So, yeah, having that feminine show up, yeah, we're just so incredibly lucky to have that. And for women to give us those gifts, right? Um, but the communication can be extremely challenging, right? And but yeah, with the old model, I mean, I'm just, all these things are coming up for me now of how I would have operated previously in situations like this. You know, um, I remember the same woman saying something to the effect of like, you don't talk to me enough, right? Old model Jack would have just met that with chaos. What the hell do you mean I don't talk to you enough, right? It would have been a fight. Now that situation was like, well, what do you mean by that? And after asking a few questions, it was actually, well, I would like to hear from you more. Again, like, how can you get mad? How can you get upset that this person wants to see you more?
Right, especially if you're committed. Like that just makes sense. I think a lot of guys hearing this about this like strong feminine energy supporting the man or like that power couple is something guys are like, yeah, sounds awesome. I think a lot of guys might be asking themselves like, but where do you find that? Like that's hard to find these days. Like you have a lot of like lady boss type or like just women who think or feel maybe that they don't need a man or it's like a new wave of feminism or of some for some groups or regions. um I think that's the thing that guys are asking is like, is that, do all women have the capacity for this, or is this like a certain type of a woman? How do I find that in my life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, if you're asking me, I think that every woman has the capacity for that. Just the same as every man has the capacity to live in alignment with his values and vision and be on purpose and live a fulfilling life, right? I think that we come into this world with that. We have the ability to nurture that. And I mean, I've just even shared my story of when I didn't nurture that energy, or I didn't look after myself, or I was living out of alignment with, my values. I fell into a very ungrounded state, and it caused a lot of damage to the people around me. Right. As far as, you know, I don't know. I don't want to speak for, for all the females out there, but I think they've leveled up. I think it's great what they've done. And they're looking to men to level up as well.
I think that's a very powerful statement, is that I love what women have done. I They've leveled up. I think men should level up too. I think that's a I think that's just, it's a very powerful statement. I think all women do have the capacity to show up in ways, but I feel that they cannot show up in a loving, supportive, emotionally strong way when they feel unsafe. If the lack of masculine leadership is present, or a dude is very ungrounded, then it's going to create a lack of safety, not only in his life but for all of those around him, and that'll carry into work and 1,000% into his relationship, 1,000,000%. And that will be felt. And I think when a woman feels unsafe, it makes it difficult for her to feel. Uh, she feels like she has to be the man, and it's like her energy is shifting towards, like, I need to solve this problem, or like I feel unsafe. Maybe I'm frozen, emotionally. Like I'm not sure if I should give this man more energy when this is the source of my lack of safety. He's supposed to be a source of safety for me. So it's that balance of like, how does a man go on journeys and strive, but also communicate the inevitable challenges and crises that occur while on difficult life journeys? Because if you're going to be a guy where we started, where we're like, hey, like go on journeys and learn skills and develop yourself. What do you want out of your life? What are your values? And then you go off and you actually go out and do that. But to do that requires, it demands a level of discomfort, pain, suffering, crises, unfortunate circumstances. All this stuff is a part of the journey. It's written into the hero's journey, that these crises and dark caves, like those are chapters, a part of the journey. What we talk about in our program for guys. But how do you be a leader when you're in the midst of chaos for those you love? I think that balancing act of what we talked about, like, hey, like sharing that you are capable. You talked about, hey, like, but the next day I get back up and like I jump into warrior mode and like start tackling. But this balancing act, I think, is where a lot of guys can lose connection, and that's what makes it so difficult to have relationships while you're on big journeys in life. And you see a lot of entrepreneur types, or just any type of high performing guy, whether that's just in the corporate field or athletics, what have you, where he struggles with women because he's on a journey. He's going through chaos, and his capacity to love is diminished. It's more difficult. And then it's like, when I'm done with this, I'll then open myself up to relationships. But what I see with that guy is he still does not have the skill of being a lover, because he's hasn't been loving. He hasn't been in relationship for so long. And that is such a common meme, or like, YouTube short or whatever. It's just like crush, grind, make millions, da da da. And then your woman's waiting for you at the end of it. And no, she's not. The type of woman waiting for you at the end of those types of journeys is the type of woman that will ruin your life potentially. Because it's like, oh, you're just like a rich dude, but like you don't have the capacity for emotional intelligence, connection, and safety. It's a conundrum for guys who are unaware of this conversation, but it can be solved. And I really think it's just a few sentences to open up the doors into like that intimacy for your partner to like support you.
Totally, man. Yeah. And there's a lot there as well. Like, I know in my 20s, I think a lot of younger, I don't know, I don't want to generalize. I think a lot of guys think that they need to be wealthy in order to attract a high quality woman, right? In my experience with women, we should actually get a woman on the call here and just ask them. But in my experience, women value connection. They value presence. The things that they value are the. I don't know if wealth is really high on that list. I'm sure there's some out there that value wealth at that point in their life, but I would, yeah, just in my experience and the relationships that I've seen that work, they're looking more for that connection and the safety, and I would also argue leadership is a big one as well.
Absolutely. I don't know that I know of anyone who is extremely wealthy. I know people who are wealthy. I'm saying that I don't know anyone who's extremely wealthy who just has the best relationships. The guys who I know who have the best relationships are the guys that have they're emotionally connected to their partner at such a deep level that she can't even see the guy. It's like the guy is just like works out, he's like fit and he is doing well. He's like going in a direction financially. He's not just like stagnant. But they're so connected and he is so attuned to her emotions and um they're playing the emotional connection game, an emotional intelligence game. The guys who have the best relation, like high quality women, and high quality being defined as both um, inner beauty, like the emotional intelligence of a woman, the growth mindset of a woman, and her external physical beauty as well. Not just one or the other, but like that to me is high quality, both inner and outer, as that is extremely important.
Yeah, and if you're talking about society, if you're talking about so why are there so many people out there chasing money? Because I would argue that probably the majority, like society is pumping out this idea that you need to be successful in order to be in a relationship or to be liked, or success is this thing that you have financial, and I'm talking more about financial success, right? Society has pumped out that you need to have financial success in order to succeed in life. And I think it's a load of bullshit. Um, what you just shared there, yeah, but I mean, I'm just thinking about all the ads that come. I mean, I love Instagram, man. I'm always on Instagram, but how many things come up on my Instagram feed about you need to be successful, you need to have this car, you need to buy the house, you need to do all these things, and a lot of younger guys that I know, and if guys are listening to this, I would check going down this huge journey of trying to reach financial success. Maybe check in with yourself and just actually get deep on what it is that you're doing this for, right? The why. What is the why? Why are you doing this? Right? If you love the challenge of sales and building businesses and stuff, I mean, I'm there right now. I love the challenge of that. I really don't feel like I'm doing it for any external validation. But if you're pursuing business or pursuing, making all this money with the idea that your happiness is on the back burner until this journey is fulfilled, I would check in with yourself.
Yeah, or the woman, like she's waiting. Yeah. Well, you can't be broke. Like, I don't think, I think if a guy's broke and just struggling, but like, does a guy have something he's working on and is there progress? And I think if you're progressing in anything and there is a goal and a vision, like you qualify already for high quality women. Like you have a path and you're moving towards that path. And so for some guys, that might be making millions of dollars or being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. For some guys, that's like, look, make I have an awesome job and making low six figures is that is enough. Like that qualifies. The idea that you have to be ultra successful is 100% not the case when it comes to high quality women. I think that if it's a part of your journey and what you want, then go for it. But you're saying, hey, like question or ask yourself why you're doing this. And for many men, if they are single, it is to attract a high quality partner. That will be in one of the top things. There could be like a high level amount of ego of like they weren't enough growing up and they really want to like show the world and like really at the core for some guys. And then women are a part of that somewhere, especially if he's single. And even if he's in a relationship, just like having this level of power is seductive. It is attractive. Power is something that can draw people to you. But for some guys, it's like they're already successful enough to attract the type of woman they want. What is lacking is not more money or another deal or another company sold or another X amount in the bank. It's likely you're lacking a strategy to meet women. You're lacking emotional connection. You're lacking aliveness and charisma. You're lacking building a life that is enjoyable outside of work, like adventure. Like some of these components, because we talk about like pulling the lever that would give you the greatest gain in the program. And for a lot of guys who are on that success path, the lever may not be more on the success path of money. It may be more on the relationship side of like, these are skills that you learn that you will 100% enable greater connection with women. If you learn the skill, you will then get better and you will get better results. So I'll never tell a guy to stop his, like, if you strive to be very successful and have big things, like, go for it, but understand what it is and what it is not going to enable. And the relationships for many guys, if they had the high quality relationship, that that may change what they're doing in terms of like building wealth. It's like, oh, well, I got the thing I wanted, and now I can, now you're almost free. It's like, now I can X. What is X? Build a family, go over here. Is it travel the country or travel the world? Or is it like, it may open up new things for you when you get, like, because if she's not waiting for you at the end of your wealth journey, then if you did have her in your life, what does that open up? What does that change?
Yeah. Much better said. I like the way you put it. Like as we're talking about, can the guys, we're talking about some deeper questions here and challenging guys. I think I keep coming back to the why. Like why are you doing this, right? I love. Have you read Arnold Schwarzenegger's new book? I think it's called Provide. Is it Provide Value or something?
Oh, no. Not as new, not as new, just the original, the one that was came out like 8 years ago.
Okay, well, he put a new book out, and it's incredible. I'm only through the first two chapters, and the first chapter he talks about the why, like what is your why, right? And he's somebody that I really admire. But
Mhm, same.
we're talking about all these, so we're talking a lot about relationships. We were talking about the old model, and I would throw in there that we're talking about like how do we connect with a high quality woman. I would challenge that perhaps a high quality woman would not want to have to validate her man all the time. That was, and that validation was something that I very much look to in my relationships as validation. And so we're talking about, if you're going out and you feel like you have to have this nice car and you have to have a multi-million dollar business in order to attract this type of woman, well, I would, that's basically saying that you're seeking external validation.
From her or from others in order to validate your sort of.
Basically, you need to make money or you need to have a nice car in order to feel validated, right? So if you do not have the money in the bank, you don't have the nice car, then are you going to feel validated? Right. And a lot of the challenging questions that we're posting here is, hey, can you seek that validation? Like I went on a journey when I first joined Project Grounded Man of I need to provide validation to myself. I cannot continue to rely on others or rely on my external environment for validation. The seeking of external validation, the reason that I'm bringing up this idea of are you seeking external validation, and I will refer back to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who his book is just incredible, by the way. But he shares this story of bumping into people at the gym. And some of the people that he bumps into, he can tell are just aimlessly walking around. They're going to one machine to the next. They don't really know what they're doing. And he says in his book that he actually goes up to these people and asks them what they're doing at the gym. Could you imagine Arnold walking up to you at the gym being like, what are you doing here? Right. So, so then
My friend has been to the gym in Venice Beach, the Gold's Gym. He used to live there, and Arnold was there, and he snaked. So he did a set, and then you get up and do a breather and walk maybe 10 feet. And when he walked 10 feet, Arnold came and changed the weight and snaked my friend. And my friend was like, "Oh, like, like he's like, how should I handle this? This is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he just snaked my workout equipment." And so he came back to Arnold and said, like, hey, I was working out. He's like, I just want to see what happens. And he's like, he looked at him and he's just like, oh, one second. But he had some guy there, like from Gold's Gym or something. And there's no disrespect to Gold's Gym or Arnold. I love like Arnold a lot. Like I have a poster of him in my gym. And he gave him this like look, like the look that said, like, you just effed up, bro. Like, and so he just stood there, let him work out, and then Arnold got up and patted him. He's like, "It's all yours," and smiled and then walked away. But anyways, that's the because you said, could you imagine if you confronted Arnold at the gym? I was like, my friend just had a story like a month ago.
That's amazing. I'd be starstruck. But yeah, so in his book, that's a great story, by the way. So he goes up to these people in the gym and says, "What are you doing here?" And so he says he'll kind of get two versions of he'll get two different responses. The one being, "Well, my doctor says that my blood pressure is too high and I need to be here." Or, my wife wants me to be healthy, or whatever that case is. And so he says that he challenges those people, why? Like, really, why? Right. And if he can get a response from them of, well, I want to look better, I want to pick up chicks at the beach and look good, then he's like, okay, great, that's something that we can work with. Right. Or, I want to feel better playing with my kids. Right. So what I gathered from his book was him asking the question, why? Like, why are you doing this? And from what I heard was there was kind of two sets. It was either I'm following what society wants me to do, whether it's my wife or my doctor or, magazines telling me what to do, or I really want to do this for myself. I want to have a strong body. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want more energy. And he says that he can work with those guys, the guys who actually have a set why, he can work with those guys any day of the week, right? That is going to basically move mountains is, if you have a strong why. So I mean, I'm just challenging the listener here of, what is your why for feeling the need to be really successful? Because I know, I have a younger brother who's in his late 20s, and I think a lot of his friends, when I communicate with them, and I don't know if some of the other listeners are kind of resonating with this, but there's this idea that I'm a nobody until I'm successful. And I know that it's actually a cause of suicide as well. Of I'm really a failure. And I've heard discussions before around I'm living back at my parents' basement again. I'm in my late 20s or early 30s, whatever that is. And you and I have both been you've been in that situation, sleeping on your brother's couch, I think it was, right? And
Yeah.
there's those dark moments where you're like, I'm a failure, I'm a nobody. And I would, I don't want to speak for your story, but perhaps there was a why there that really got you through that time. So, I mean, just coming back to the external validation, I would challenge the guys to really dig deep on why. Like, why are you feeling that you have to have this successful business before you can go and ask that girl out for her number? Or why do you feel like you have to have a flashy car in order to date high quality women? Like, why, right? Is really, really get real with that. Or why do you want to make this money? Because if the why to I want to make this money is attract a high quality woman, well, then maybe they should be giving Knowledge for Men a call and save themselves a lot of pain and suffering. Right? um, so anyway, just a challenge for the listener. Why, right?
I think that's very, very powerful. I think that's a common construct that we all have. I think there is a level here that you could debate in that I wouldn't want to say, hey, don't be successful, just get this relationship skills and then you're going to have the girl and then you won't need to do that success journey. Some guys should just go out and be successful for themselves, but yeah, I do agree that if having the why is going to allow for greater consistency, especially when the times get really tough. But the why around I need to have a certain type of car or place and before I can attract this woman, or in order to keep the woman. Like if I lose these things, then I'm naked, and now my current partner would think less of me. It could be a belief, and I think that has been our society. I think it's a part of the old model. I think that's a big part of just how our society has shown successful men is rich, car, house,
Yeah.
girl equals girl. And a lot of the marketing or, really perpetuates this as well. So it's that the answer to that is up to the guy, I think, to discover like you should challenge yourself in this because that really could bring out a lot of insecurities, I think. So we'd rather not, which is I think the immediate response is because I'm not enough. Like, I want these things to sort of suggest that I'm powerful and that I am capable and that, or that I'm different. I stand out. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I stand out. And because of that, that it will overcompensate for my feelings of low self worth. There could be elements of nature here though, where in animal kingdom, it's like those who show off can then mate. Like in even with birds, or those who have resources and things can then have greater access to mating. I think it's a question that must be asked and revisited often. And because without asking that, you for sure might find yourself in a place where you have become successful, but you still do not have the life you want because you haven't addressed sort of the internal world that still says inside that you're not enough, which may be some of that driver for what gets you through tough times. It's like, I need to prove that I'm enough, so I'm going to continue to work hard and do these things. But if the internal world is fractured and or weak emotionally, then a high quality woman will discover this, and no amount of wealth will save that relationship if she's a high quality woman. If you have a woman who's just like gold digging around, then that's her goal. And a lot of what you worked so hard for, you may be giving up half of that in court, in some time, as that's also a common threat.
I was just gonna say you hit the nail on the head with your internal world. That very much I agree with. Like, well, I agree with everything that you're saying here, but you just mentioned, rather than building your internal world, and that was kind of where I was going to go with this. There's another side of this where, you and I are both. I think we're both in agreement here that a high quality woman is really not that concerned about finances. Of course, resources are always going to be something that,
And security, yeah.
security, resource. Yeah, security is probably a better word there. That's important, but I've heard you argue this before that only gets your foot in the door.
It gets your foot in the door. Like being fit and being successful will get your foot in the door. She will look at you and give you an opportunity to what else is going on here. But once discovered that this is a weak man at his core, that is the ultimate defining factor of the longevity of this connection and the depth of that relationship is the internal world. Like trying to keep a woman through having a powerful external world, like maybe you have lots of friends and you do a lot of adventures, you're social, and like you can consistently take her out to all these nice places, you can valet your new whatever car. Those things will keep her entertained enough to sort of like get her out, but will this relationship last? I would say if she's a high quality woman, that eventually this will end. It's like she can only be on this roller coaster for so long. And a lot of these external things are really just masks to hide a lack of deeper emotional connection. Not that you shouldn't go out and do all these fun things, but what is it like when you were just with her driving in traffic? What does that scene look like when they're what does it look like when you're getting groceries? What does it look like when you're going through TSA at the airport? like what does it look like when it's just you and her and there's no way for you to like cover your like buy anything to like distract her from the reality of your relationship? Like what does it look like when you're in traffic? Like that is a are you guys laughing and connecting, or are you just rushing to the next destination because that's where you can sort of enjoy her and she can enjoy you? Is this thing that you're going to that distracts the truth of your relationship?
And that is the ultimate goal. I think that is the ultimate goal.
And so for guys who want to embark on this journey, you can click the links in the description or go to kfmcoach.com, kfmcoach.com, or click the links in the description. Either one should take you to where you could just learn more. Wow, this was a really powerful episode, Jack.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
This was good. This was good. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Until next time.